no need to introduce myself, but if I would introduce myself, I have a way of introducing myself. So, and for you, my name is Lauren. And girls, I used to be a student here. So this is my speech. I'm saving it. So good afternoon, everybody. And I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys had a good Easter weekend. I think I did. The weather was nice. We spent time with the family. And the kids hunted Easter eggs, and I got my niece and my nephew an Easter basket. Shanna, I want to say thank you. And thank you to Jason McGlone for allowing this to happen. Now, I am a former student here. I graduated in 2011. You know, I was a little slow about it. Now, about my history, I graduated in 1999, about 4 years behind you, or ahead of you. I was 1 year older than Heather. 2000, I was 99, from East Carter, and well, I went to college at ACTC for a year. I had a lot of problems there because of stupid math class. Yeah, then got frustrated, and but dropped out because I was mad about math. And then I was like, I've been wanting to try beauty school. So I went to beauty school. I went to Ashland Community and Technical College for beauty school. I first started off there. Then I transferred to Carl D. Perkins, that's in Paintsville, and because it was easier, and I have a disability, because they specialize in treating students with disabilities. And I graduated in 2002 from cosmetology school. Tried cosmetology itself, and wasn't the best for me. Actually, it just kind of frustrated me because I felt like I was having a lot of meltdowns in cosmetology school, college, and being on the job, and having all my autism meltdowns just greatly affected everything that I did in trying to live a normal life. And because of it, I just feel like it's just been difficult for me to not only hold down a job, but have a relationship too, and because of some other stuff too. But the good thing I did learn at Carl D. Perkins that I'm thankful for is that it helped me to get ahead in my math when I started back to ACTC in 2005. Then I had to take college algebra and really struggled through that, and I failed it, and they went ahead and gave me a write-off because I couldn't pass it, and I already had so many credits to get an associate degree, so I'll stay another semester longer. And I came on to KCU, and yeah, the struggles continued. But I'm gonna say this about KCU. What I like about it is that it's small enough that I didn't need to get a tutor. I tried tutoring here at the tutoring center upstairs in the Leslie Center when Anna ran it. Well, I just decided that I didn't want to go that route, and I talked to my professors, and that was the best thing to do. I took statistics, and Dr. Coates helped me hand and foot to get a C in that daggone class. And I took a computer class one semester. Diane helped me. Thank you for her. I want to give her props for that. But unfortunately, my autism continued to struggle here, and hesitant about letting me in the counseling psychology program, and well, just say the professor was. Well, a lot has changed since then, and I feel like that people understand more about autism, and because some personal reasons that I didn't feel like I was cut out for a medical profession. I felt like counseling psychology would be the next best thing down from a medical profession because they are professionals, and what better way to understand a child on the autism spectrum than to do that. You know, Temple Grandin has worked with people with autism, and I trust her because she knows a lot about it, because she's lived that life. And so, as for my autism, now your struggles may be different than mine, but no one gets through any education without any struggles. If you are a normal person, you're not some rich person or a genius. Now, there are some that struggle more than others, but perseverance is a sign of strength. Autism diagnosis rates have increased over the years. Well, unfortunately, it don't discriminate, and it affects kids of all races, religion, and socioeconomic backgrounds. I was born in 1981, and back then, the estimates were 1 in 10,000 kids with autism. Now, it's 1 in 30. Crazy, huh? Fact, autism is something that you're born with. Yeah, the cause is still unknown. It affects each person differently, meaning that, like, on one hand, you've got somebody like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates that are tech gurus and entrepreneurs, or people that are fighting for cancer cure. And then on the other hand, you've got people that need support 24/7 and they don't talk. So why are autism diagnosis rates increasing? Now, this is just me. I'm a patient, not a professional. Better awareness of the condition. Parents are having kids older than what they used to. It's less of a taboo topic than what it was years ago. And if a person had some type of disability back hundreds of years ago, they institutionalized them. And sometimes these kids that are considered like high-functioning autistic or neurodivergent today would just be considered brats. And number 4, broadening of criteria. No shame needed. I faced a lot of stigma most of my life for my autism symptoms because it felt like people just didn't understand me. And to be honest with you, just like up until a few years ago, people were off about me. But now that I started opening up more about my experience, I think it helps people more, and I've been doing speeches for 10 years now about it. With autism, I don't feel like there's really anything to be ashamed of. It's just a different operating system. Think of it as an autoimmune disorder. They flare up all the time. And the way I like to look at autism meltdowns is that they're just like autoimmune disorders. They'll flare up every now and then. And you're going to have a meltdown if you have autism and you're one of those kids that are prone to meltdowns. Now, autism is a blessing, and you teachers have it a lot easier than the older generation of teachers did, because there's so much that's been improved with autism treatments and services on all fronts over the years. And I'm very thankful to where it has all come into prayer answered. Now, many of us autistics have good qualities that does not exist in a normal people, like sincere honesty, diligence, confidence, and perseverance. Temple Grandin says if we didn't have autism, that we would still be living in caves, and I agree with her on that. I felt tempted to give up so many times. You just wouldn't believe it. And this speech that I'm using was one of my other speeches, and I'm just like kind of editing it. Now, post-graduation from college, I went through what they call graduation anxiety. I was just anxious about the graduation, and when I graduated, it felt more like I was an adult for the first time compared to any other time that I graduated with anything. And since graduation, unfortunately, I still continue to struggle with all the symptoms of my autism. And in 2020, COVID hit, and I had a hard time dealing with that. And when it hit, I knew that I wanted to write a book, and I bought the equipment for it with my stimulus money. This is perfect time, I thought to myself. It was nearing winter time, and I was waiting on the shot to become available so I could get it, because I didn't feel good about COVID until I could get the shot. So I wanted to do something to get my mind off of this COVID crap, and writing the book was the perfect start. And the first book was a memoir, and it was published in the fall of 2023, and it's She Got You All One. So, and the second one was published a year later. And so the pros about writing a book. So for my two books, everybody that read either one of them said that they loved them and it helped them to gain a better understanding of autism. The cons, the prices. So the lessons that I've learned over the years of being a college student and a patient and just having autism when nobody understood it. And the best Bible verses. Okay, effort over praises. And remember the John 16:33 verse. It says, like, when in this world you are going to have trouble, but take heed, I've overcome the world. So autism blessings. So girlies, I'm sure that you guys are going to need to talk about and learn about autism, and you're going to have a student or two every semester in your class that has autism, because it keeps growing. And my prayers go out to you guys, and remember that you guys have done amazing, and if you go to this school, you're going to come out ahead of yourself, because Jerry Morris told me that one time, and I was like, what are you talking about, Jerry? You got a degree here, and you teach here. And he said that this one is harder than the other schools, even at master's degree level. And I'm like, it's even harder than UK? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, how do you know? He's like, well, he's taking classes from UK and Moorhead. But girlies, this is what I want you all to do. And Shanna, pursue your dreams, regardless of what anybody else thinks. You guys are more than worthy if you come here. May your days be rosy and pink, because you guys were born to shine. Okay, now I'm done. I think I'm done for right now. Do you guys have any questions?
I had to prepare some questions before.
Okay.
Are there things in your daily life that are just seem harder to do, just in general?
Unfortunately, yes, and that's why it's really hard for me to hold down a job. When I was little, I had a lot of sensory issues. It almost looked like fear. It was fear, but people just called me a timid kid when I was little. But it was actually sensory overwhelm. And I still have other sensory issues today. Well, some of the social issues, when I'm really upset, Like, I can't control myself. I get really bad meltdowns, and I get really tantrumy, and I wring my hands, and I have to gnaw on pencils and pens, and I scream and yell and cry, and some social stuff. But my biggest problem my whole life has always been just really anxious and severe emotional control problems and a little bit of social stuff. I have all of the typical mental symptoms of what they used to call Asperger's syndrome, but it's now just named high functioning autism level 1. I used to remember stuff that other people would not remember, and it can be a blessing and it can also be a curse. Yeah, I hate to say it. I mean, I'm thankful for it, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I'm looking through two different lenses sometimes too.
Yeah.
And I think a normal person is probably only looking through one mental lens, and I feel like I'm looking through lenses that another person doesn't see. And but the biggest part of it is people just don't understand autism. And the only way that we can get people to understand it is to educate people about it. And if you have any other questions, I'll answer them.
Are there certain routines that help your day go smoothly?
Yes. Well, there is a routine I cannot go without. I don't like going without my shower. Well, I've been obsessed with skincare my whole life. So I have a set routine. I don't leave the house without my skincare routine. That's got to be twice a day. It's a given, and I'll grab a snack or two, and then I also can't leave without brushing my teeth. I hate it. I will have a meltdown if I have to do that. But other than that, not really.
Lauren loves to work out. She
I
goes to
do.
the same
I go to her
gym.
gym.
Yeah.
Are there things that people you think just misunderstand sometimes?
Yes. Unfortunately, I feel like people in the older generation, it's kind of like it's ingrained in their head the things they were raised on, and they can't get it out of their head. It's not that they're bad, and you have to forgive them for that because that was the way they were raised. But it's up to the younger generation to educate the older generation about things are different now, but this is what we need to do to work with autistics. And the more that we learn about the condition, the more that we need to learn how to work with people with it. And I was always told, when I was younger, Mom took me to doctors for everything, and she kind of gave me the idea that she didn't think that I did what the doctor said. Well, what do you want me to do? And I thought I was religious to a T about dental work, and I never smoked. I mean, I was a health nut, and if I knew that something was going to be harmful in any way, I would be like, no, I'm not going to do it. But the thing about it is, back in my time, autism was still misunderstood, and controlling and suppressing your emotions, and you try to make yourself normal to be what society says is good. Because if you didn't, then you were bad. And we went to counseling, and counselors and doctors back then we're taught that they need to make the patient be more normal. But as time is going on, you can go to any autism expert and they will say that you've got to work with the patient on their things. Autism is treated differently than other mental illnesses, and I believe it's because you're born with it, and it's brain based, and it may look like a typical mental illness on the outside, but it's not. It's a neurodivergent disorder. And, you know, I'm just thankful that, you know, it is what it is. And it's not that I didn't try, you know, I tried, and, you know, I was punished a lot for it, for meltdowns. And you cannot punish a meltdown. So.
Let me ask you something.
Sure.
So I'm a big Temple Grandin fan,
Yes.
and you mentioned her. And in one of her books, she mentions that she feels like an actress whenever she has to, like you said, like act normal.
Yes.
Can you relate to that? That you feel like sometimes in social settings that you have to be an actress
Yes.
and mimic what others are doing? And
Yeah, like, say you're having a bad day and, you know, you're like PMS or something. Well, you can't just start out crying and bawling and saying, well, and start complaining and throwing a temper tantrum.
yeah.
But, like, if you have to scream and cry out in public, regardless of how safe it is for the situation, it's like you have to try to control it.
Right.
And the way I look at it is, as long as you're not trying to hurt yourself or anyone else, and you're not mistreating anyone else, then you let it slide. And at the end of the day, what's on the inside is going to be revealed. And I'm a Christian, and I know that. Yes, I can easily relate to that, what Temple says, because they taught me to do that growing up in counseling, and I have tried it, and overwhelming. And I had a lot of the other comorbid disorders that really brought my autism to the surface. Like, I had panic attacks, I had obsessive compulsive disorder, and the learning disorder, and that just really made me worry a lot. And because I worried a lot, then that flared the other stuff up, and then that flared the autism up, and then it just was hell. And when you have severe anxiety, it's like you can't really control it. And I would try and take deep breaths and everything, and there's been times where I would try to get rid of it. Like, not too long ago, I was really overstimulated and irritated by this ice storm we had back in 2021, and I was so upset and frustrated and temperamental. Tried everything to distract myself to keep from throwing a fit, and it was way worse in the night because we had no electric, and it was frigid cold, and you couldn't walk outside without falling. And I mentioned that in my book, but it was royal. It was a royal muscle for me to try to have to control my emotions during those unpleasant times like that. And when that happened, during the day, I tried what I could to get rid of it. I cleaned my sister's house, babysat for her while she went out and helped Dad with something, and I took the dog out to use the bathroom, did stuff for her, picked up around her house because she had a generator that was putting in electric at the time, and then but when it was time to go to bed, then that's when everything was worse. And I was just suppressing it then, and I still had it. But sorry I got into detail, but that's just that, and it's always been that way. Just in any kind of unpleasant changes in your teens, like you gotta suck it up and deal with it. Well, when COVID hit, I was complaining about it on Facebook. When is this ever gonna end? I was complaining about being in lockdown. I was mad because I couldn't go to the gym and I couldn't go to any theme parks, and I used Facebook as an outlet. And other people were covering stuff up and using it as a distraction, but I was being outwardly open and honest about my feelings about having to be stuck in lockdown and not being able to go anywhere farther than our local dollar store.
Yeah.
Not even getting gas for like a month.
Mm-hmm.
And feeling out of shape for when the gyms did open back up.
Yeah.
It was not really pleasant, and I've never really dealt with anything like that. But is there any more questions before?
I just have one more question.
Sure.
What do you wish more people understood about autism?
That it's not as bad as what people think it is, and that we're not mean. And when I was growing up, everybody knew me. We grew up in a small town, and there were so many people that saw me as stuck up and mean, and because they didn't know, and it's not that I want to be like that. And people just assume that when you have a meltdown that you're looking for attention and that you're not trying hard enough and that you're just being mean. But in reality, it comes out of severe anxiety, and that the more you punish or judge people with autism, if they're like me, it just makes all things worse. And I know that I'm not perfect. I've been judgmental of people at times, and I shouldn't have been. But for me, when I'm like that, it's always worse when I'm stressed out. And it's not like that we don't handle stress, but we're open and honest about everything. And I know that this is a Christian school, but I feel like as Christians need to really open up and try to understand these neurodivergent differences. Like I was always told, well, I shouldn't say I was always told, but years later, my mom told me that my teachers, like in elementary school, they always thought that I was really smart, but it's kind of like I just couldn't connect. And like if I was really smart in one way, I could not function the way that normal kids do. And I needed help, and I needed special ed. But then again, I felt like for me that for you guys as teachers, I feel like that if you have any type of neurodivergent kid in your class, whether it be dyslexia, ADHD, dyscalculia, which is math learning, and autism, of course, and really just a kid with anxiety, you really need to learn how to find out what helps them the best. And I feel like as teachers, we need to set aside times like every day for kids to go for tutors or teachers to have a resource time where they can help kids with problems like that for whatever subject they may struggle in. Math was mine. And lessons learned. There's a lot of lessons learned, but you know, I feel like if I just sit here and talk all night, then I don't know if it'll get things, but you know, there's a million things I could talk to you all about. And let's see what time it is. Is there any other questions?
Do you care if I ask you one more?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just want to know, who do you look up to?
As a person?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I'm a Christian, and I would say that I look up to Jesus first and foremost. And I think that all the people on level on the spectrum, and Temple Grandin, of course, and level, what is that called? Oh my gosh, this guy, he's on the autism spectrum, and he has a PhD. And I read his book, and I'm like, he's on the autism spectrum, and he has a PhD. Like, reading that book, I was like, you know, if he can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
And he was diagnosed back in the 60s, so Temple was born in the 40s, the late 40s. He was like born in the 60s, so Temple's a year older than my dad. And this guy, Dr. Stephen Shore, he was born in the 60s. Well, just people that have been through a lot. And honestly, people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs is an inspiration, because they were able to create something. And supposedly they were on the spectrum. And look here, Steve Jobs right here, and in your hand right there.
Right, exactly.
So, that's who I look up to. And of course, you guys.
Oh, thank you, Lauren. You know, you were talking about Abby on Live on the Spectrum, and she says that she feels like Ariel when Ariel doesn't have her voice. Can you relate to that? Or is there a Disney princess or anything like you feel like accurately describes how you feel?
I feel like if there's anybody that I can relate to in cartoons, it's Dory from
I love it, yeah.
Dorky Dory. She's kind of a dork. She's like, she just always acts so like forgetful and like crazy. Like, I feel like Dory a lot.
Yes, I love that, Lauren. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there anything else? Well, thank you so much for
You're
coming.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope I answered everybody's questions.
You did.
Yes.